Okay, I didn't want to have you on spotlight. Hey, how y'all doing? How we doing, everybody? Appreciate y'all joining us for another Two Raw for TV debate. This one is gonna be hot and heated, right? We got to ask the question. 50 Cent just dropped his new documentary, and we got to ask: is this thing good for the culture? Right? Good for the culture. And when I say good for the culture, that in itself brings up questions. What the hell is the culture? Right? What are we even talking about when we say culture? Right? And I tell you one thing for sure. When I say culture, I'm talking about the black culture, right? What it means to live in this skin in these United States of America, right? The black experience, right? Whether you're born on this soil or not, that all adds to what I see as culture. And when I say culture, I'm talking all the way back from what they told us of slavery, right? I'm talking about I'm talking about the great music that we have, right? The all the influences that shape the rest of the world, right? That come out of this what I call culture, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about culture. Um, and I don't want to be pointing at Pookie and Ray Ray as the culture, right? Because as Pookie and Ray Ray and Veronica Shrieko or whatever her name might be, um, they are parts of the culture, but they aren't the whole culture. Yeah. So when I say culture, it's a real broad statement, right? And we're talking about all these things that make up all the greatness of us. And that's what I mean when I say culture, right? Um, Me personally, guys, I'm completely undecided on this topic. So what I've done is I've got together four of the smartest people that I know, right? And I got some questions, and I want to hear because the smartest people that I know that have opposing views on the topic, right? So I got Crumb from CrumbTV, right? I got Big Nel. He does a show on Two Raw for TV. Airs every Tuesday, 5 p.m. And correct me if I'm wrong on the date. It's either Monday, Tuesday, right? We have Chief with us. Chief is very outspoken in his community. And we have Mikko Turtle, another creator on Two Raw for TV. So and Miko's show comes on at 9 p.m. on Thursday night. I know that one for sure. Um, and we also Crumb is also going to be airing on Two Raw for TV coming here in January. I want to say January 7th will be the premiere of Crumb Uncensored. So I'm not very smart, right? I'm not a real smart guy. So I tried to surround myself with really smart, intelligent people, right? And everybody you see here on the panel, very smart, very intelligent people. I think very highly of them, and I respect their opinions fully, right? I think it's interesting that they think completely separately on this topic. So I would like to be convinced one way or another, right? And that's what I see my job as the moderator for this. So with that being said, I'm going to briefly just ask you guys to introduce yourself and quick tell me um, just your quick overview on the topic. Make it no more than 2 minutes, please. And Premier on top. So let's start with you.
Peace and love, family. I'm your humble brother, Crumb, the master student. Yes, I am on 2 Raw for TV.tv. Tap all the way in. I'm also on Facebook. I'm almost at a quarter of a million followers, so tap in over there. I was on YouTube, 50,000, but they took me off because I'm antiseptic. Um, also, according to this whole topic, family, black, the music industry, 50 Cent, all of it is bad for black people. What kind of culture is it? It's nigger culture. I'm your humble brother, Crumb. That's all I have.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And then we have Big Now.
Salute. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Salute.
Salute. It's your boy Big Nel. Oh, booyah. And yeah, we do Outlaw Radio Tuesday, Two Raw for TV. And I don't know. I mean, I take the position personally. I'm undecided about the documentary specifically, but in general, I do think that we need to define good. And part of what I think we should define good as is protection for our community, accountability within our community and finding ways to make things change and shake things up. And with that regard and in that light, I'd like to say that the documentary is good for the Black community. And we'll talk more about why I have that perspective, because it's a little nuanced. But at the same time, I do agree with the brother Crumb, where it is a sort of a nigger conversation. And in the light of it being a nigger conversation, let's bring some intellectualism to it so that we can really use it strategically. So that's my piece.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Chief, it's on you.
Let me see. Listen, man, y'all know me, bro. I'm a simple dude, bro. If it's not bad, it's good. If it's not good, it's bad. I don't play in the gray area. Diddy murdered our people. Diddy raped. Diddy cheated a lot of our artists. Diddy changed our music to fag shit and flash and all of that material shit. Absolutely, it's great for that. That's not my culture. It's great for that because Black people have lots of cultures, bro. I'm a very conservative black man. So I come from conservatism. So that's not my culture, but I think it's great for that particular segment of the culture.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mikko.
Mikko Turtle, the Big-Headed Alchemist, Atlantis Indigenous Radio, only on exclusively on docuseries.tv every Thursday 9 p.m. Hit me on Instagram, the Big-Headed Alchemist. You will see me doing handstand. And my perspective on the whole situation is, yeah, culture has to first be defined. The current hip hop culture, I consider it colonial hip hop as far as the mainstream with Puffy, 5-0, any of those colonial hip hop. We as original people, we do have a culture, and I stand really for that. I call it indigenous, our indigenous culture. And like the brother said, there's various different elements amongst our community that operate differently. But the documentary, is it good for the culture? I mean, I would say no. It's not, because 5-0, he could have exposed a lot of things, and he chose that to expose. That says a lot. He could expose Universal, or he could be strong and powerful, like let's say Michael Jackson. Even one of his rivals, I'm gonna build on how one of his rivals who transitioned got more testicular fortitude than him, to do some powerful things within that music industry to where they can take control for themselves and really be powerful. Because right now, all of that under colonial hip hop is they all weak. And he just doing that documentary to build up a little position for himself, a better position amongst his masses. So that's my position. Ain't nothing that 5-0 do is beneficial for our people overall.
So I can appreciate everything that you guys said, right? And that brings up some more questions from me. And again, I want to reiterate that the fact that when I say culture, I'm talking about it as a whole, right? Yes, the conservative culture is part of this culture that I'm talking about, right? It's not separate. It is a part of it. If we got to think in umbrella terms, right? The culture is the umbrella that we're all the things. And I see you shaking your head, and please, but for me, this is what I'm, because and why I say this, I consider myself a conservative. I consider myself a what do they call it? The entrepreneur type, right? The do for self, right? That's more Republican type of thing, right? But I also like hip hop, right? I also like to enjoy music, right? I also like to enjoy comedy, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about culture, right? And forgive the ego, but this is my debate. I'm asking you guys to convince me, right? That's really what it is about. And my ego is a bit inflated, but you know, it's really not about me. This is I feel like our audience deserve that type of candidacy, like honesty, and you know, because really and truly, I can't separate it. I can't. You know, that's part of me. Hip hop is a part of me. It, regardless of how they've changed it and what they've brought it to right now, it is a part of me. Right? That's the when I go to choose music to listen to, that's going to be very high on the genre of what's going to be playing. Right? So I can't act like any part of it is a different part of the culture or anything like that. I really can't. But I do. You guys bring up some interesting points. Is this thing where he put out? Is it something to where he's putting it out to help the culture, or is it something that he's putting out in as a business person to elevate himself within his ranks of business? And knowing, right, this is very important. This is a very important piece of it, because we know that neither one of these guys, they're very influential in our communities, but neither one of these guys have real ownership. We see it. We see it on display right now. If we're not seeing that, we're really not paying attention, right? They showed us with Prince. Well, Prince actually showed us, right? But here it is again in the forefront. So that's kind of what I would like to know is, you know, do you guys really feel like this is anything to help the community? Because on one hand, it sheds some light. I got daughters, right? I got daughters, and they like entertainment. They like to sing and dance. God forbid one of them grow up and end up in some kind of grip of an asshole like this, right? So in that essence, I love the documentary. And I'm gonna ask you, since you were last, Nico, to expound on that, please.
All right. So you have built on a lot, but I think you is basically saying is his documentary good for the culture, that being like the first question. And I already led in the intro saying no, it ain't. It's just a business move by 5-0 Curtis Jackson to position. He see that position down. Hey man, he been rival. He been beefing with Puffy. So and I consider. I mean, people be like that goofy shit that he brung forth. No Diddy. That wasn't even for the culture. That was just him getting that Puffy. If he was really for the culture, he would have said no colonizer, and them boys would have been going at see, that's why I'm about to salute Irv Gotti, RP to him, because he at least did this. He at least tried to link up with Suge and Jay Prince and create their own distribution company. Ooh, and this is an interesting fact that y'all can do the knowledge to. Around the time he got raided, 5-0 was the one on the stage speaking on the brother that they was connected with as far as Supreme. And then the feds raided them, but they also raided Suge, and Jay Prince was able to elude because he had multiple different investments. But I bring that up to say that 5-0 got enough bread to do that. Puffy had enough bread to do that. They didn't do that. They goofy. He is just vouching to get a better position within colonial hip hop, serve his masters better. He is an absolute slave and they number one puppet, because he's the perfect lab rat for that position. Because think about how he came into the game, how to rob a rapper, goofy ass shit like that, man, how to destroy his own kind due to his family traumas.
So on that note, I want to get somebody that that kind of agrees with the documentary. So I'm gonna pick on you, Chief. I know you're very outspoken, and you think this. You said I've seen you say online that this documentary is the best thing to happen to the culture. So I would like to hear from you next, please.
Bro, listen, man. I don't get into what somebody should have did. If they wanted to be good for the community or the culture, they should have did this. You can't dictate what anybody does, bro. You can't dictate what anybody does just because you think that's what they should do to be good for the culture, right?
Fair enough.
Secondly, whether he got paid for it or not, whether he does some type of master's bidding or not, whether all of these reasons, these speculations for why he did it are true or not, nobody knows. All of these are speculations, but we'd rather play in that area than just be in the area of reality, right? This man raped, exploited, took money from artists, you know what I'm saying? Murdered Tupac, murdered Kim, Heavy D. Dude was responsible for several murders. So exposing someone who is doing terrible things to our community, how is it anything other than a good thing? Like we don't even need 2 hours, an hour, whatever it is, how long this debate is going to be. He exposed a man who was doing terrible things to our community.
And so here, well, and the reason why I'm not convinced, right, is because it definitely there's more that can be exposed within that, right? More. There's a whole lot more that can be exposed within that.
There's always more or less. There's always more or less. There's always
Right.
more or less. But do you know more? Do you know more about his dirty deeds than you did prior to the documentary not coming out?
But listen, I know about the industry. So half of the stuff in the documentary did not surprise me. But right, you could look at a rose, right? You could look at a rose and you can say how this thing has beautiful petals. You know, this thing has the most beautifulest red on it. The green on the stem is, and the leaves are so divine. Or you could look at the rose. You can look at the same rose and say, look at these damn ugly ass freaking thing with all this thorns on it, right? If you touch one of the petals, it's gonna crease, right? But it's the same rose, right? Now, as an entrepreneur, there are many things that I can take from Diddy and 50 Cent as good things, right? So I'm not gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater.
What can you take from Diddy? That was a good thing.
What do you mean? There's plenty of good business moves that he showed us. Plenty. Look at the whole empire.
Brand ambassador for Ciroc.
Bro,
I'm not gonna sit here and diminish those accomplishments. Just like I can look up to Trump as a businessman, the same way I put these three in the same category, because I look at them as business, right? As far as the documentary goes,
so how do you put them in the same category if you have no evidence of rape, murder, and that sort of thing?
I'm not looking at those things. I'm looking at what I want to look at. I want to take what I want to take.
Fair enough.
Right. And I'm not arguing with you, Chief, right? I want to explain my thoughts because I don't think I'm the only person that's thinking like this. Right. So I definitely do want to get clarity. And I think I want to go to Crumb next and then Big Nel.
Yeah, the whole thing is the same thing Kanye told you. Kanye made a song called "We the New Slaves." That nigga ain't nothing but a fucking slave. So then the question really is, who's the slave master? Because let's just be honest, family. Nothing happens in America without the approval of our Jewish overlords. So now, the question is, because Puffy did this, Puffy didn't do shit. Puffy got green lighted. That's all that happens. This is the mafia in real life. And
Crumb, on that note, right? He yes, absolutely. I agree with the green lighting, but you have to be able to prove yourself to be green lighted. He didn't get green lighted just because he was some idiot on the streets, right? He got green lighted because he was making moves. He was making the right moves to the people that wanted to see those moves. Fair enough.
Yeah, the reason Puffy got green lighted is because of Mary J. Blige 411, which was on Uptown Records.
Speak about
but then Puffy and Heavy D together killed 9 people They got green lighted because of the Mary J. They
What do
killed
you mean?
9
Wait,
people.
so explain to me when you say they got green lighted by Mary J. Explain that a little bit more for me.
Because what Puffy did was carry on the legacy of of uh of Uptown Records. Uptown Records was the inventor of New Jack Swing, the amalgamation of R&B and hip hop. You never had that before them. So now you got Mary J and Method Man. I need that. That's New Jack Swing. New
Yeah,
Jack
but
Swing.
but in order for him to get in that position to be able to do that, he was putting in work before that, bro. He was
Please
putting
elaborate.
in
I'm not
work
sure what you're talking
before
about.
that to even get to that position. Yeah,
Well, before that,
yeah.
he
He
was
wasn't just
washing
some random
cars and
dude.
and dancing in clubs. He didn't do anything prior to 411 outside of grunt work for Heavy D.
Right, but the grunt work he was doing, the grunt work, he wasn't the only person doing grunt work, right? So his grunt work stood out above everybody else's grunt work. This is what I'm saying.
I think I can't really think of anything in particular in terms of the grunt work that he did that made him stand out. I think he had fought somebody. He had fought like a bouncer for Tommy Lee Davison at one of the movie premieres. Outside of that, that's even obscure. There's really nothing notable beyond 411.
When you, I think when you say notable, you're thinking on the levels of what we know as the public, right? I'm thinking about the people that put him in the places that he were or gave him those green lights. Those people had to see something. They didn't see some random guy and say, okay, this slacker right here, let's make something out of him. They saw somebody that was hustling, that was making moves, that they could say, okay, well, you get what I'm
Diddy
saying?
isn't necessarily organic. Diddy's daddy was a gangster. Diddy daddy was over there with Frank Lewis and the gang, and this may or may not be true, but they said Diddy daddy was a snitch. So Diddy's daddy had the clout that Diddy came in the game on. Not only was Diddy daddy a gangster working with Frank Lewis, but his mama was some people say she was a prostitute. I would even categorize her as a madam. So she was out there selling vagina. His daddy was out there selling dope, dog food. So he came in the game because his parents were notable and known within the Harlem community. So by the time he came up, he was kind of building off of their legacy. So he begs and cries and does everything he can possibly do to get Heavy D, because they're both from the same block, to walk him into Uptown Records. And that's kind of where that story starts, as far as I know.
Makes sense. Big Nel.
I'm listening to everybody speaking. One thing that we can all agree on is that not just Diddy, but all of these folks in the music industry are slaves, enslaved individuals. I think we can all agree on that. But I don't think that necessarily, I think that agreeing with that doesn't speak to the heart of the question that's being asked, which is whether or not this documentary is good for the culture and good for the community. And that's part of the reason why I think definitions are necessary. Just to be clear, I'm New African. My perspective is a revolutionary Black nationalist perspective. So strategically, I move as an entrepreneur, because you can't fund a war without money. You can't fund a movement without money, and you can't make things happen without motion. So that's why I move like I move, hustle from the streets. So a lot of my perspective comes from the streets and being in the music industry. So that being said, imagine some of you all who have daughters or nieces or whatever. Imagine that you have a young lady who wants to be a part of the music industry, and she sees herself as the next star. She's the next one. She's the next Mary J. Blige and all that other stuff. And then she gets in there, and then she goes around these folks, and she's putting in work in the studio. Everybody's proud of her, but then she goes to the wrong party. And she goes to that party, and she experiences that she never had before, drugs and influence and all that kind of stuff. That stuff changes her view of reality, and it's also evidence now of stuff that people have done to her, which is leverage that could be used on her down the road for her to do other things for people in the music industry. And that's kind of how the music industry works. So in the behind the scenes of how slavery works, that's kind of how it works in the music industry. You know what I mean? That happens often. And I say that to say, when we find out about people like Diddy doing stuff like this, it's important for us to be able to point it out and to put two and two together and make a four. That's not my only reason why I think it's good for the culture, but that's just one of them, because I think that that's an important reason, especially being part of the music industry. But you said you had a point real quick. You had an interjection.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You summed it up.
But just to kind of, put a pin on that piece, I think that it's important, what I'm saying, for us to understand how these things work to protect our folks. If we keep talking about the music industry used to be this and used to be that, and rap, hip hop, and all that kind of stuff, listen, man, I'm a connoisseur of hip hop. I am hip hop. I'm part of the hip hop culture, and I personally feel like we haven't held hip hop accountable enough. We've been letting hip hop slide too much because we love hip hop, and it is who we are. And we don't want white people to have ammunition to put us down. So that's kind of one of our last babies. Let's don't mess with hip hop. But no, man, we got to hold these motherfuckers accountable. Not just Diddy, but Africa Bambaataa. Anybody talking about that? You know what I mean? This is like one of the forefathers of hip hop, and we found out.
I have no idea.
So he one of the forefathers of hip hop. We found out this boy is grooming boys.
Oh, shit.
You know what I'm saying? He got boys sitting on his lap and playing with his thing and all kind of stuff. And this is really, when you do your research through hip hop, you find little stuff here and there all throughout the culture, all throughout the time. The first hip hop shows and the first hip hop events were being held at gay clubs, because those were the only clubs that would house hip hop events, because you couldn't do it at the regular clubs in New York. The regular white clubs wasn't having it. And this goes back to my perspective, where I personally feel like we need to have independence on all of our media, whether it's our entertainment, whether it's our music, whether it's our political stuff. We need to have independence, because if, let's say, we did have some independent Black-owned clubs in New York during that time, hip hop wouldn't have had to be groomed in gay clubs. Right. If we did have some independent music industry insiders and some independent distribution channels, you wouldn't have to go through Andre Harrell and the Temple of Doom to get on and become a music artist, or go through the Diddy parties. You see what I'm saying? Yes. So this really all goes back to the conversation about us having our own and being independent.
And I'm glad you went there, right? Because that's what they're showing. They don't have their own, right? They're not independent, and it's very evident right now, regardless of the lights and the glamour and the smoke and the freaking mirrors. We can see, especially when we're talking to intelligent people, the importance of ownership, right? Which is why Too Raw for TV, and Chief, I'm coming to you, which is why Too Raw for TV itself exists, because we need to have ownership, right? Speaking of Too Raw for TV, if you're watching this on any other platform, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, it doesn't matter where you're watching it from, it's not going to last. I'm going to be ending the stream on all of those platforms. You have to come on over to Too Raw for TV to catch the rest of the debate. So what say you guys about the actual controllers? Okay, I'm not going to deal with the fact that nobody else is implemented here. None of the actual real owners or real people who actually pull strings. Nobody's implemented in this. And like you so adequately pointed out, Chief, you can't really think about what people do. We can't control what people do, right? But what say you about the fact that that's not even a part of the conversation? And I'm gonna go with you, Chief, and forgive me if you have some from the other subject, from the other.
Oh, no, you're good, boss. Bro, there's always more that could be exposed. Everybody know Diddy had, what I'm saying, ain't no black man in this country doing what Diddy does without some type of top cover, be it the government or whoever else it is, bro. So That thing goes all the way to the top. And you get enough perverted people at your parties, you know, in high position to get enough dirt on them, you pretty much can run, you know, willy-nilly and do whatever you want to do type shit. So I certainly know that there's more people that are involved, Jay-Z, or you know, all kinds of other people, politicians, you name it. My thing is, we have to. I'm an old school cat, bro. I was born in '73, right? Raised by my grandparents, did 20 years in the military, bro. I've always tried to do the right thing. People told me as a kid, you walk past something that's substandard, you keep going, you just set a new standard. And like my man said, we set a new standard in hip hop a long time ago when we started calling our women bitches and bragging about selling drugs and we, we watched that happen. We watched ourselves go from niggas to bitch, from brothers and sisters to niggas and bitches. And then it was just fair game after that. It was just fair game. And somebody's got to bring this shit to a screeching halt, bro. I remember when all the cussing and the ignorant shit used to be